I love playing the game of disc golf. What I hate is waking up the next day, feeling that soreness in my muscles, in my body, my arms, my shoulders, my legs. And what I typically do is I wake up, I hammer down a few ibuprofen or Tylenol, and I go ahead and move on with my day. What I didn't realize was how bad that was for my body as well. Throwing a disc is very strenuous on your body, whether you realize it or not. What it does is it causes micro tears in muscles, which then become inflamed, and that's where any post-workout or post-round soreness comes from. That's why you need to check out our friends at WunderKind. WunderKind with a U, all natural CBD products. They're located right here in the United States, and they're always shipping for free. All of their products are 100% legal in all 50 states, lab tested to make sure that you're getting the highest quality CBD product to help you recover from your round out on the course. The CBD products all have an anti-inflammatory property, which is amazing for muscle recovery and pain reduction after a round. Guys, check out WunderKind. Again, that's WunderKind. You can follow them on Instagram at WunderKind Extracts, and you can visit their website at WunderKindExtracts.com and select from any of their amazing CBD products and use code RUNIT15 at checkout to save 15% off. Again, that's RUNIT15 at WunderKindExtracts.com. Tired of putting down those ibuprofen and those Tylenol, eating up your stomach and attacking your liver? Well, give an all-natural CBD product a shot and see how much better you feel after your round. Again, that's WunderKindExtracts.com, and we thank them for sponsoring this podcast.
This is Ricky Wysocki, and you're listening to Running It with Nate Sexton.
Running It with Nate Sexton is brought to you in part by Innova Champion Discs, proud sponsor of 12-time Open World Champion Ken the Champ Climo.
Hello, disc golf fans, and welcome back to another episode of Running It with Nate Sexton. I am your co-host, Jarett. He is the Innova team captain and our host, Mr. Nate Sexton. Nate, how you doing today, man?
Oh, I'm great. Had a long night driving last night, getting back from Bend, Oregon, where I was there doing the DGN, Disc Golf Network commentary for the Jonesboro Open, watching Ricky Wysocki just go crazy again. I mean, that guy's on another level right now. It's fun to see.
I like to think that him coming on and just kind of talking with us and going over his game plan and just kind of really letting a load off, I think we were a big part in his win in Jonesboro.
Yeah, I think our case would be stronger if he hadn't just been crushing everything before he came on the show also. But, I think we can run with that a little bit. We can try to say that you get a little bump after you come on the show. I mean, he did lead the field in birdies and get no bogeys. So if my math is correct, you cannot lose if you do that. So hats off to Ricky. Incredible.
Yeah, and what more can you ask for than that final card, that final lead card going into the last day? I mean, Paul, Ricky, Calvin, and Eagle. I mean, is there just four? I don't know if there's any four other guys you'd rather be watching. I mean, I know you would rather be in there, but from a spectator's point of view, if it's not going to be you, those are the four guys, right?
Yeah, we've been jokingly calling them, that's those 1050 boys. And it's not an accident. Those guys have been setting the pace out there this season with just kind of mind-bogglingly good play.
All right, Nate, now before we get to this amazing interview with the champ today, we got to pay a few bills, and you guys already know I'm talking about our friends over at FisherDiscGolf.com. Check out FisherDiscGolf.com, guys. They're really loading up on these discs, including, Nate, they just did a few custom stamp discs for Fisher team player Clint Calvin, and much like, the bigger manufacturers are doing, the sales of these discs go to helping Clint while he's out on tour. I know they've got them done on a couple of different molds. Check out FisherDiscGolf.com and pick up that new Clint Calvin stamp. They're loading up on some Innovas. I know that he's looking to get some Nate Sexton X-Cals in. So all of our listeners can pick those up, but make sure you're checking them out. They did start their disc stacks an hour earlier, so it's at 7 o'clock now. That's on Tuesdays and Fridays. You can check them out on any form of social media at Fisher Disc Golf. And these are guys that are just really doing the right things. They're spending a lot of money. I just saw they were doing a cleanup crew over at their local course. So we're all disc golf fans. Let's support other disc golf fans, especially those who are helping support this show so we can bring it to you for free. FisherDiscGolf.com. Check them out. And Nate, for listening to this show, everybody can save a little bit of money, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You can use our code RUNIT10 to save 10%. It's always free shipping, so it's awesome. I mean, Clint Calvin, got to shout him out. He just got a nice little win last weekend, won a big B tier in Santa Barbara. So the guy can play, 1031 rated. Definitely look him up.
Yeah, absolutely. We're hoping to have him come chat with us for a few minutes one day. I know Levi and the Fisher team is trying to get that set up for us. So, yeah, check out those discs. And again, guys, you get yourself some awesome new plastic, and you're helping getting a pro who's rolling. You heard what Ricky said. He was sleeping in his car and eating from the dollar menu. So, get over to FisherDiscGolf.com and help these pros that are trying to come up and get to Rick level. Now, Nate, another amazing sponsor. We started talking about him a little bit last week, and that's your boy Jarett Girthy and Double G Craft Jerky. I just got my another order in yesterday. I had to order more because my kids keep munching this stuff down. This Double G Craft Jerky, guys, like we were talking about the Clint Calvin disc, this is an opportunity to help support a guy that's out on tour. He loves cooking. He talked about his passion here for cooking when he was on our episode. They're using top ingredients. They're using actual brisket to make this jerky, and I think that's one of the reasons why it tastes so good. It's not so hard to chew on. It's really just a solid product coming from a solid guy out on tour, a friend and a teammate of Nate's. He's donating money. He's doing all sorts of things with this. And on top of it, you get an awesome snack. It's Double G Craft Jerky. I'm sure you guys have already heard about it. Go ahead and visit the website, doublegcraftjerky.com. Find Jarett or Double G Craft Jerky on Instagram and Facebook. Follow them. I know they've got some new announcements coming up on some new flavors, but for right now, they've got some amazing flavors. And Nate, I know you loved your Double G Jerky. Plus, Garrett's a friend of yours, man.
Yeah, and here's a little pro tip. The jerky is so good that you're going to eat it faster than you wish you had. Go for that hot boom sauce. If you can handle the heat, it'll slow you down a little, and you get to enjoy the jerky a little longer. I've learned that much in my time with Double G Craft Jerky.
That's a solid tip right there. And the hot boom sauce, it's not terrible, guys, but it definitely has some kick to it, and it'll keep your hand out of the bag several times. You might get one of those real spicy ones and kind of learn your lesson. So solid pro tip. But guys, again, these companies are helping support the show so we can bring you interviews like Ken Climo for free. And the way that you can help support the show is by supporting the sponsors. Check out Double G Craft Jerky and get yourself a little snack. Throw it in your golf bag. Take it out there for a round. Share it. It's just it's an awesome way to help out a great pro who's helping get some PDGA junior memberships bought with the Children's Foundation. Just really some awesome things going on. And we appreciate Jarett and his crew for showing some support in the show. And in return, we hope you guys will show them some support as well.
Also, completely unrelated to jerky, but get on there and look at Jarett Girthy's YouTube channel. He's got hooked up with this drone, like racer, with the video drone that follows his crushed disc golf shots, and it is some of the most amazing video I've ever seen. So get on YouTube and check that out.
I never know what I'm more impressed with. Am I more impressed with the crush that Double G threw, or the fact that drone pilot can stay right on top of it?
I mean, you don't need to choose. You just need to sit back and let it wash over you. Just be impressed by both. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. So Nate's right. If you haven't seen those, check those out and pick yourself up some jerky and help Jarett and get himself rolling with his jerky business and get a tasty snack for yourself. Everyone enjoys one. Well, Nate, I'm a huge fan of all professional sports. And inside my circle with my friends and other sports fans, there's always the debate of who is the GOAT. And in hockey, a lot of people think it's Wayne Gretzky. I think it's Bobby Orr. In basketball, a lot of people think that it's Michael Jordan. I think it's Oscar Robertson. in disc golf, I don't think there's any question. Who are we running it with today, Nate?
Well, we got that goat, I think, and I want the listeners to sit down because this intro, I have to give the man his due, and this intro takes a little bit to kind of get out there. So today, we've got the 12-time world champion, the 5-time U.S. champion, the 3-time Masters world champion, the 3-time Japan Open champion, the European Open champion, the 7-time PDGA Player of the Year, which, how is it only 7? Obviously, Disc Golf Hall of Fame inductee. We've got Ken the Champ Climo.
Hey guys, how's it going tonight?
Oh man, better now. I'm so happy that you were able to take some time out of your day to join the show. We've been kind of trying to tell some history stories in disc golf, talk to the big players today. Obviously, you're the number one guy we have to talk to be able to tell the story of this sport. So I'm so happy that you agreed to come on the show and can't wait to talk to you about some of your career.
That sounds great. Sounds like it's going to be an interesting little evening here, and can't wait to get it started.
Sweet, man. Well, first things first, how are you and the family doing? You're in Florida, and I know you got, your whole family there with you. How's everybody?
Oh, we're all doing good. Got the 18-year-old is just out of high school, started her first few semesters of college. She's doing good. And the 9-year-old little one is online school still. Haven't sent her back yet because of the COVID thing. I think next year she's going to go back. And Kelly's getting raises left and right at her job, and everybody's doing really well here.
Awesome, man. That's good to hear. I know the feeling. And my daughter is still yet to go back. We're kind of waiting for that to all come around and kind of life hopefully return to normal a little bit. But let's start at the beginning. So, when I do this show, I kind of take an hour and kind of stalk your PDGA history. Some of the bigger name players like you got a Wikipedia page I can dig into, make sure I get my facts straight. So if Wikipedia is to be believed, you're born in 1968 in Clearwater, Florida, which continues to be your home. I would just like to hear a little bit about your life growing up and maybe your earliest memory of throwing discs.
All right, before I touch on that, I also have to shout out to my son, Keegan, who turns 27 tomorrow.
Oh, legit, yeah. Happy birthday, Keegan.
Happy birthday, Keegan. So I lived my whole life in Clearwater, Florida. I've obviously traveled around the world and been a bunch of places, but I've never left here as a place for a permanent residence. Love it here. It's a great place to live, great place to grow up. My dad was into sports and, kind of got me into that general mode when I was young. I played Little League Baseball from the age of 7 to like 15 years old. Played volleyball from a middle school team. I ran track. I did long distance running races. I raced BMX bicycles when I was younger. Played a little pee-wee football. Played my high school golf team. Loved the game of golf. Always loved golf, and I think that's why I transitioned so nicely into disc golf, because I had a love for the game already.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense. And how old were you when you kind of got that first disc, and how did that happen?
Well, playing golf for the high school team, you get to play free golf, practicing for the team. You don't have to pay anything. And then once I got out of high school, I didn't have free golf anymore. It kind of hurt. I was like, dang, I got to pay for this stuff.
Yeah, totally.
So that's about the same time some friend or brother or someone mentioned to me that there was a disc golf course at this local park up here that we frequented now and then. And first time I went up there, tried to check it out, I really didn't see anything. Looking around, I'm not sure what I'm looking for. And just there wasn't much to be seen, and I just kind of wrote it off as, I guess it's not here.
Yeah.
And then I went back with someone who was a little more knowledgeable, and there were these wooden posts in the ground, okay, and they had a red paint on them, kind of where the chains would be, and you were supposed to hit them in the red painted area. And if you didn't know they were there, you would never see them. Like a running, stretching course kind of thing, exercise course. And so there was really no numbers on them or anything. It was really rudimentary. It was very, very small time at that point. And so, my buddy had a disc or two, and we got to throwing around. And I had thrown a bunch of frisbee, like beach frisbees and stuff in my day. So I kind of was already into throwing those things and had a good throwing motion. Probably threw 500,000 frisbee throws before I tried disc golf.
I guess, living that beach life down there in Florida.
Yeah. I was really into the frisbee and doing a little freestyle. And our game was to back each other up, I'm gonna back you up, you back me up, and that's kind of what we did until I heard about the game of disc golf, and that's when I'm leading into the polls and all that. It was just a kind of a weird entry into the whole sport, not having a basket right away to know what's going on, really. So I kind of found my love for the game through throwing at these posts, and teeing off on dirt tees with a tiny little 1.5 foot post next to it. So if you stumble to the right, you were cracking up your shin and stuff on them. It was pretty dangerous.
And was this Cliff Stevens Park, like the park that everyone knows as Kenny's Course, or is this a different place?
No, this is Cliff Stevens Park. Was
wow.
Probably in, I'd say, for 6 months, talking to the historians and the people who got it going there, probably 6 months before I ever stumbled onto the posts myself. And I guess they had a tournament there. I guess it would be early '87, where they brought in portable baskets.
Oh, and nice.
That had happened one time before I heard about the sport. So they had like a tournament there with portable baskets, and then they took them away, and it was just the posts again. And I started throwing with a coupe. It was my only disc, and I had it for about 3 months. Just one disc.
What happened to it? You threw it in the water or what?
I really don't remember what exactly happened to it. I think I had it for a little while, and
okay, cool.
I might have given it away and let someone use it because it was useless to me after a little while, after I started figuring out some new molds and some other things that I liked. But it was really hard to get a disc. That's one thing I'm gonna have to say. When I started, it was not like today where you can just get any disc you want, style, weight, color, everything at your fingertips. You can get it all right now with a click of a button. Anything. What we had to do was we had to stand at this guy's trunk when he pulled up and be there, and hopefully he just got a disc order. And when he opened his trunk, he would get rated, and if you didn't buy a disc right then and there, you probably weren't going to get a new one.
Yeah, it's not like you could just crack open the phone book and search for disc golf discs and roll down to the shop, right? I mean, it's like pretty underground. Right.
And Walmart and Dick's and places like that were not carrying them at that point. So
no, yeah, wow. So that makes sense. I mean, so you said early '87. I noticed also in '87 that was your very first PDGA tournament, and I guess this isn't going to surprise many people, but you won. The very first tournament you ever played was the 1987 Crosstown Classic in Orlando. So you had a short drive. That was amateur. Do you have any kind of memory of that, like that very first official tournament, or had you played kind of some non-PDGA? Obviously there's no way for me to check into that stuff.
No, that was my first foray into any kind of organized event, and that was in Orlando, and they used multiple courses on that one. I think Turkey Lake and UCF. That was why they called it the Cross Crown Classic, because they used those two courses were across town from each other. One was on the east side, one was on the west side.
And yeah, you won it, right? I mean, was that a surprise, or were you just kind of knew you were pretty good already, or what?
Yeah, I had already buddied up with C.R. Willie, who was a little more into the know than me about all this stuff, and me and him were battling back and forth in our practice sessions before we ever went to this thing, and he and I were quite a pair, to battle each other and bring each other up. We were kind of striving to beat each other, and that's kind of what helped us ascend through some of the lower ranking players and up into the upper ranking players early in the beginning, just because we had a drive to beat each other.
Yeah, sure. That's so important to have a kind of a training partner. Right. I have heard that you had some pretty, I've heard rumors of just like incredible practice regimen for you kind of in the early days where you were playing just so many rounds and putting. And was that this time frame, or was that kind of after you'd turned pro?
It was I was working a lot, so it was like anytime I could get off work, or anytime we could get off early, or the weekend when I didn't work, I would go out there, and you're right, I sometimes would play 10 rounds of golf. There wasn't many players out there, so it was either me or me and a buddy, and we could whip around there pretty quick. And in the beginning, my course was only 9 holes. There was no back 9 at Cliff Stevens when I started, so it was kind of easy to whip around.
Sure. Yeah, man, well, it certainly worked, putting in the time, and it didn't take you long. I'm going to talk for a little while here and hit you with a little story of just kind of some stats, because I need to make sure all the listeners, as the silver lining of this COVID thing has been incredible growth in disc golf. And I think a lot of these people have found our show, and they maybe haven't heard your name as much as maybe they should have. So I kind of want to tell a little story, go through some statistics, and I'm just going to kind of let you react to those things afterwards, and then get into some more stories of your storied pro career, obviously. So you turned pro that next year, 1988. You play your first world championship in 1989, and you take 5th place. That was in Waterloo, Iowa. So you drove up there, I presume, and did very, very well for yourself, considering you're still pretty new to tournaments. Then 1990 rolls around, and the 90s, you start the most dominant decade in disc golf history, the most dominant decade we will ever see, winning the world title 9 consecutive times, from 1990 all the way to 1998, many of those winning by double digits. I put some statistics together just going through the PDJ history for all your tournaments that you played in the 90s. And I want to just tell people kind of how that went. So in the 1990s, for those 10 seasons, you played 201 tournaments. I don't know if you're going to be aware of these numbers or not, but out of 201 tournaments, we did this with Juliana, and it was mind-blowing as well. 201 tournaments, 140 wins, 36 second places, 11 thirds, and only 14 times in that entire stretch not on the podium. So that equates to 70% wins, 93% podiums, and 187 trophies. So where are all those trophies? And just, yeah, man, I mean, just talk, I guess, a little bit about kind of that transition from going to that Worlds and then just the dominance of the 90s. You know, I got some more specific questions for you, but I guess maybe take us through. Let's go to 1990. Let's talk about your first World Championship win and what you remember from that.
I would like to back up to the year beforehand because I think it's worth noting.
Oh, please do. We love that.
Yeah, we in 1989, the first Worlds I ever attended, C.R. Willie and I were doubles partners when they used to do doubles at the World Championships. I don't think they do that anymore, but they did.
Yeah.
Same
Now
sex,
it's only mixed.
Now it's mixed, right? So anyway, we show up there, and at the time, our PDGA numbers were very high, 42.97 and 43.90. They're very low these days, but back at that World Championships, people were looking at us like, oh, these guys are brand new. Oh, they're newbies and stuff. So we get paired up with these guys from Arizona, Johnny Carroll and David Demery. I don't know if you know Johnny Carroll, the Arizona guy who rides around on his bike and gives everybody refreshments out at the memorial.
Oh,
really
nice.
nice guy.
I'm sure I've seen him, but I wasn't aware that he had that kind of history. But yeah, cool.
Yeah. So we get teamed up with those guys the first round of the doubles, and they were licking their chops. They're like, look at these guys, PDJ numbers. They're really, really high. We're gonna wax them. We're just gonna smoke them. We came out and we shot like 15 or 16 under, and they were like, man, I never heard of you guys before, but wow, you guys are really good. I don't know how many we beat them by, but it was quite a few. 6 or 7 strokes. Yeah. We made good friends with those guys, and they're like, if you ever out our area, come stay with us. And I have stayed with that guy probably 10 different times in Arizona. What an awesome friend I made that long ago. But to make a long story shorter, CR and I went on to shoot another stellar round, the second round, and we were tied for the lead in the doubles World Championships. And we were at one course, and the other team was at a different course. So we ended up having to drive to the course they were at, which it was John Ahart and Steve Valencia.
Okay.
We get to the first tee, and we're ready to start the playoff, and John Ahart looks at me and says, who the hell are you guys? Wondering, who are these guys we've never even heard of or tied with us? The, world champ from 2 years ago, John Ahart was, and Steve Valencia, top player in the game at that time. And I looked back at him, and I said, we're the guys who came from Florida to kick some butt. And we proceeded to beat them in a 2-hole playoff. Sudden death, but we beat them on the second hole. And CR and I were world champions.
Wow!
First time ever trying to compete in any kind of world championship type thing, we won, and it just flabbergasted me. I was like, oh my gosh, we are where we need to be right here. We should have come to this thing, because there was a little intrepidation going there, and okay, well, what am I in for here?
Yeah, that's amazing. Ken, in 1989 at the Worlds, what does your bag look like? How many discs do you have, and do you remember what you were mainly throwing then?
At that point, I was probably carrying 12 to 16 discs, and A lot of Stingrays and classic rocks and XDs and ABRs and maybe a Cobra. I think Cobra had come out by then, so probably a Cobra in the bag.
Nice. And so so where was the Worlds that following year in 90? That was Arizona, wasn't it?
It was. That's when Johnny Carroll said, when you guys come out and stay with us next year for the Worlds, and then anytime you want to afterwards. So it was a plan already made. It was going to happen. And a year prior, we already knew we were going, and it was going to happen. We were staying at Johnny's.
So I guess at that point, you'd taken fifth and you'd won the doubles, so you kind of know you got a shot going in 90. You've been grinding that whole time, I'm sure, like playing as much as you possibly can in your free time. But then, I'm sure you didn't. You certainly weren't any kind of favorite coming in 1990, right?
No, I mean, I played a couple, good tournaments that summer. I think I won the Laurel Springs Open, maybe one or two other big ones, the Edgewood Electric, which doesn't happen anymore, but that was one of the big tournaments back in the day, Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay, and then so what do you remember about winning that one down in Phoenix area?
Oh, I remember it took really good golf all week because there was a lot of birdies. There was a lot of people really far under par, and you had to shoot, basically 45, 44, 46, somewhere like that, almost every round to be up in the mix. And I do remember the final round was probably the most exciting final round that I've been a part of in the World Championships history. There was 3 different leaders and 9 different lead changes through the final 18.
Wow. And who were those other 2 guys?
Sammy Joe Grisapi from Texas, and
yeah, it's all right. It's been a long time, but the guy who got second, that's the guy who got second, right? I think that guy you mentioned from Texas.
John Ahart, I think, was the other one.
Gotcha.
I think Crazy John Brooks rounded out the foursome, I believe.
Wow. Man, so then you win it. Obviously, you're kind of arrived now, but still, it's not like are you seeing this? You're not seeing this as a career at this point, right? I mean, it's still like a hobby, and you're the man, but you're not like there's not money there really.
Not at all. Yeah, I was still building houses, doing framing, rough construction work, and it was like getting paid to go to a gym. So it was really good for me back in those days when I was younger and could do it. And I was like getting a workout and getting paid for it. And then my boss was really cool. He said, if you're not here, you're not getting paid when I wanted to go to tournaments. And I was like, that works for me. Yeah,
totally. So in kind of those early 90s years, even into the late 90s, I guess, does one season it's a 2-part question, I guess. Does one season kind of stand out to you as your very best season? And if your answer is that it was in the 2000s, that's fine as well. I was just kind of focusing on the 90s. But the second part is, obviously through that time, you were a huge favorite almost everywhere you played after getting into the later 90s. But who are some of the players that stand out to you as kind of the toughest competitors in that era?
Oh, do you want me to answer the first part first?
Yeah, sure. So what season, or if one does stand out to you?
Oh, it's undoubtedly one season, 1995.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were going to say, because I dug into the stats. And yeah, that one is 26 tournaments, 23 wins, 3 second places. That's it.
That's it. Yeah, I got a playoff loss, a 1-stroke loss, and a 4-stroke loss on those 3 second places.
Wow. So
basically eight strokes from winning everything.
That is crazy. So yeah, clearly, that's not something anyone can do. That's a kind of maybe something we're only going to see once, a season like that in the MPO division. But for that second part, kind of who are some of the players in the 90s that kind of stand out to you if you think back like this is the toughest out? Obviously, you were the guy, you were winning almost everything, but there's still got to be a couple guys you're kind of like, well, shoot, if I come into this last round tied with him, it could be a battle.
Crazy John was always a really tough competitor, and this is more early 90s kind of talk here. Crazy John, Steve Valencia, what an awesome player he was. He could throw both-handed, hyzer left, hyzer right. It was kind of like the sidearm is nowadays. He had it with the lefty back then.
Yeah.
Or actually the righty. I think he was lefty predominant. He threw righty hyzer once in a while when he needed to throw that type of shot. And, man, he could put the lights out of it. I think he won Player of the Year a couple times. You were talking about that I didn't win. He won it a couple years. He was phenomenal. He was an awesome player, and really loved battling with him.
Nice. And then, yeah, into the later 90s, you're kind of battling against like Scott Stokely a little bit and
Ron
guys
Russell,
like that. Yeah.
Mike Randolph, Brad Hammock, even, man. I mean, that guy, when he was on point, he could play with the best of them. I tell you,
Yeah.
he was little dynamite in small package, but he had some fire to him.
Definitely. He definitely still does from the times I've seen him anytime kind of recently in the last 10 years or so. So yeah, you kind of were Mr. Innova at a certain point. I kind of want to dig into that because, I don't know if people know this, but like there wasn't like a team Innova. There wasn't a team anything back then. And Team Innova was a one-man wrecking crew. It was you, and I don't really know this story. I was curious as to, how did that relationship begin? And at what point did it kind of start to change your perception of disc golf as far as like, oh, maybe I could kind of like, maybe this could be sort of paying the bills and be a career thing for me, with Innova's help?
I think in the beginning there was, a few sponsored players, but anybody who was sponsored, say, mostly the California guys, the Lissamans and those guys who were all Innova tight. And basically they would give us product and we wouldn't have to pay for our discs. And that's how it all started for all of us, all those players back in the day. I wasn't any different than them. We got a certain allotment of discs and that was it. And then the KC line of discs came out in 96, late 96, I believe it was. And that's when I started to think, I started getting those royalty checks. I was like, man, maybe this could be a viable option.
Yeah. And do you know how many, like when it came, was that the first King Climo signature stuff? It kind of all dropped at the same time on a bunch of different discs, or?
Yeah, there was like a Pegasus, a Raven, discs that just aren't even really thought of or even talked about anymore. There was a few discs in there, and I don't think the Rock didn't come in until the 8 time, and then the AVR didn't come in until the 9 time. So not exactly sure what it was all in the beginning, but
sure.
I know the Pegasus and the Raven were the early first 2 KC discs out there.
I talked a little bit with
the Gazelle.
Oh,
that
sure.
was one of the early ones too. Yep.
Yeah, Cheetah maybe. I feel like I've seen your name on a Cheetah. I could be wrong, but I talked a little bit with Jonathan Poole, who served as team director for Team Innova for a long time and just recently resigned that position. But he told me that he remembered playing with you in like 1997 or 1998 and how you had been so insistent that disc golf needed to have par 4s and par 5s, and that just kind of wasn't a thing. And he kind of credited you with changing, Winthrop Gold and their idea to like combine a bunch of holes to make that iconic hole 5 and taking the game to a new place. Do you kind of remember some of that conversation? I'm sure you were telling everyone who would listen that you felt like that was a necessary thing. Yeah,
I definitely remember that explicitly. Like I said, I was a golfer growing up. My dad had me swinging the clubs when I was 7 years old, falling in love with the game. It's teaches you all sorts of different things, and to call ourselves golf, I thought we needed to be like golf and have par 4s and 5s as well. I mean, throwing and putting every hole just kind of got old, there's not as much strategy involved.
Yeah, sure. I think that makes perfect sense. I mean, it's kind of amazing that it took that long, in looking back, because it feels like such a huge part of the top level game now, but it is crazy to think that all those world championships are just, more that pitch and putt style rather than having the strategy of like, I'm going to go for it here, I'm going to play back here. I mean, that just adds a whole nother dynamic.
Well, even as the courses started to get longer and become more of a par 4, type holes, they would still call them par 3s. It was this mentality that just stuck from the beginning that everything was a par 3. You're playing a 900-foot hole, par 3, playing a 200-foot hole, par 3. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, come on, let's logically think about this here. That one should be a par 4. This one should be a par 3.
It's kind of like the De La Viega I-5 thing where that's still a 3, right?
Right.
It's like the old school way.
Yeah.
Where it's like 550 and a tunnel at the end and all kinds of junk you can get into. And it's like, obviously a 3 is great here. No one's getting 2 hardly ever, but.
Right. Unless some miracle thing happens. Right.
Yeah.
But even as late as 2002, the world's there. We played a tourney course, I believe. There was 11 reachable holes and 7 that were, 700 feet or more. And I shot a 43. My putter never hit the ground. And I got credited with an 11 under par.
Oh my gosh.
1079 rated round, because when ratings kind of first started coming out.
Yeah. Wow.
This
so
was
it's an 18 under.
Basically an 18 under these days. Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. So kind of bringing myself into this story a little bit. For me personally, starting as a player in 2000, I remember it kind of being you, Barry Schultz, Cam Todd. Those were kind of the guys I saw on like the VHS tape that was under the Christmas tree as a kid. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about Barry as a competitor towards the later part of your Open career. And also if you could give us kind of your take and tell the story of the now legendary 2003 USDGC.
Oh, yeah. The playoff. The battle. The heroic battle. One heroic battle, I think.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah, Barry, Barry's a great guy, great competitor. He's I think he's played for much longer than me. I think he started in 1979 or something like that, as I recall. Just an absurdly long time to be throwing the disc. And he's one of those guys where, if you weren't on your game, you were definitely going to be falling well behind him and having to make up tons of strokes. And you didn't want to have to do that against him because it doesn't want to happen.
Yeah, but he didn't really he wasn't really like a factor in the early 90s and stuff, right?
No, not in the early 90s. No, it came, later 90s and then early 2000s. He came on like a gangbusters. But I remember seeing him at like the World Doubles Championships and National Doubles Championships in Round Rock, Texas, with a friend of his, Paul Nietzsche, I believe. That was the first time I remember seeing him. And that was probably mid 90s-ish, but he still wasn't up towards the top of the game until, like I said, late 90s when he started showing up on leaderboards and getting into world championship final groups and things like that. And he started to figure it out a little bit then.
Well, yeah, he's super high on our priority list. I haven't reached out to him yet, but definitely going to need to have him on the show and hear his take. But yeah, can you kind of take us through that 2003 USDGC? Because it's just one of those stories that, I don't think a lot of people that are listening to this show maybe have heard, but just one of the most epic things that's ever happened in a major championship.
Yeah, it was quite a battle all week long. I remember we were, nip and tuck here and there, and I don't remember if it was the 2001 where he beat me by a stroke or it was the 2003 where we tied, where he ended up clipping like 4 or 5 strokes off me on the back nine to get tied with me.
Wow.
And, I think he birdied the last 3 holes of regulation also to be in that tie. And then we birdied 9 holes together in a row that's 12 for him. And then he birdied the 10th one, would be 13 birdies in a row for him on that to finish me off. And I putt on 18, that tough basket placement. I was up on the hill, kind of short over by those bushes, putting downhill, and gave it a good stroke and just missed a touch high. I was high enough, hit the band. Man, it was, and then he made a couple of unbelievable putts during that playoff as well. I think he made one from up by the stump on 18, where that stump, I don't know if it's still there, but he made one from up there, and that's a really dicey putt. And then he made one from short left of the tree on one, old hole one, that big fat tree with the bush. Yeah. He was short of that up left, and I was parked, and he made the putt to keep it going. It just couldn't dispatch the guy, and he ended up taking it down.
Yeah, I think I had a DVD of it. It must. I wonder if it's on YouTube. I got to look. And if it is, you guys need to get out there and watch this because it was insane. I mean, 9 straight birdies in a playoff. Both of these guys just at the peak of performance, running the loop of hole 1, then the treacherous 17 that just can get to anybody, and then the super, super tough 18 at Winthrop with the treacherous green, just making 3 after 3 after 3. These guys just birdieing it. So check that out if you can. But yeah, I mean, that's the only story I think we can really tell on this show where you didn't win, because you kind of won everything. But that was kind of, even though that one didn't go your way, still one of the most kind of amazing stories of.
I'd like to add something into that story. I don't know if people see it in the video or have seen it, but me and Barry were just, by the time it was to the 8th, 9th playoff hole, we were just happy with just being there, and it wasn't like stressful. We like put our arms around each other and walked up the fairway. It was really friendly. It was the most friendly, intense situation I've ever been in. It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like I mean, I don't even know what it'd be like. It's like, yeah, you got to just like tip your hat eventually. It's like, how are we doing this? You both look at each other and smile like, this is unbelievable. We're just both, nobody's going to stop. How are we going to be here all night? What's going on?
Kind of, that's what was going on. Yeah, that's when we both just kind of embraced each other and walked up the fairway, like with our arms around each other's shoulders and going, man, this is awesome. I wouldn't want to be here with anybody else.
Wow. Yeah, well, nobody else really had the chops to get there, I'd say. It's like only two guys really had what it took to be there. So incredible. But yeah, thanks for sharing that. For me, I want to talk about a round that you probably have no memory of, the 2006 Beaver State Fling in Oregon, the final round. I found myself on a card with Ken Climo, Nate Doss, and Avery Jenkins. I had played like 10, 20-ish golf to that point, which was really, really good for me in that time. I was still a very low 1,000-rated type player, young kid kind of. And I remember shooting 936, being super nervous the whole time. I think I was Bob, back of the box on the tee the entire round. And the moment that I remember the most from that whole round, hole 12 on that course, the west course at Milo McIver, it's like 400 feet straight away. The basket's up on a mound. There's bad rough on both sides.
Got it. River to the left. Got it.
Yep. I hit the fairway or something. I chip up under the basket. I think you might have gone right early. I don't know what, but you're in the woods. You're like, your second shot is short in the woods, 50, 60 feet on the left side. You're back in the woods. I can barely even see you. And I remember thinking, well, I'm doing terrible, but I'm not going to be Bob after this. And then you just came flying out of the woods, jump putt out of the woods, and just cashed it on me. And I stayed Bob. It was so crazy. And I just remember being so starstruck. And I wonder how you feel about kind of, I've been lucky enough to kind of do that to some players myself now. But like, you got to have the record, for the most kind of wide-eyed people, like, oh my gosh, I'm playing with the champ. And, that's just an amazing thing. Like, how do you feel about being that guy to so many people for so long?
I never really put that onus on myself. I always just felt like I was just another regular person. I never thought I was better than anybody else or anything like that, or held anything over anybody. I always just thought I was just another person, and if there was any pressure on that person, it was not put on by me. That's for sure. It was put on by themselves.
No, that's for sure. Yeah, and I wouldn't try to insinuate. Like, I would say almost the opposite. Like, this is a story that I've told people and that I've heard echoed by so many players. I don't know how you do it. If you can tell me, I'd love to know. You've done a better job than anyone I've ever seen at just like remembering everybody's name. I remember just being shocked early in my career when I'd show up in South Carolina and you'd be like, "Hey, Nate," and I'd be like, "Champ knows my name," and I've heard so many other pros like, "Yeah, man, he knew," and it doesn't stop at pros. Like, you're remembering volunteers, and I just think you're such an engaging guy, and you've like, I don't know, I'm terrible at it. Like, I feel like I'm a nice guy, and I try to be thankful to all the people that help me, and I just forget people's names left and right. So, I mean, I think you've just made people's day that way for a long time. I'm not trying to say you were like some tough, unapproachable guy, but, just the career that you've had and the success you've had just makes you just like a larger-than-life figure, for me in 2006.
Right. Like if I went out and played ball golf with Tiger, I'd probably shank it all over the course.
Sure. You're kind of like, oh, my gosh, this is it, Yeah,
I'm happy to be here. I don't care if I'm hitting in the water, man.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah,
so,
I get you.
Yeah, but I just kind of wanted to share that with you because that was one of my early memories. Another really early memory I had of you is playing with you at the Masters Cup, and it was that kitchen hole, and then they had it on the little place down to the left. I can't remember. It's like number 13, but usually it's like blind. And then this one year they had it in this little short spot.
Oh, yeah. Where you either got to crash through the woods or you throw the big high turnover.
Yeah, and I remember being like, but there's a backup, and I like didn't know what to do, and I was like going back to my bag, and I remember you just being like, "Hey, man, just aim it right there and just throw it flat." And you were like, you're in my group, I wasn't much of a threat to you, but you just like told me what to do, and I did it, and it parked it, and I was like, "Thanks, champ." Like, just that's the kind of stuff that I remember from competing against you. It was never like a. Yeah, I mean, you were
I love helping people. I love helping people. Even if it's during tournaments, man. If they want help, sure, bring it.
Sweet, man. Well, If you ever want to come caddy for me, man, I bet I could use some advice. That sounds just fine. But yeah, okay. So I guess I wanted to touch on your last open major that you won, the 2007 USDGC, and you went out in style. Not that at this point you knew you probably weren't going to win another one, but you won by 11 shots over Avery Jenkins. It wasn't like you limped in. You were still dominating in 2007. And I remember that award ceremony, and I just want to get your take on it, because I remember they had all these guys with Harley Davidsons drive around the lake, this big dramatic thing, and then they put $15,000 on the table, $1 bills, and you were like laying down and like, yeah, did you get all that in your luggage? Did that fit in your luggage? What'd you do with that?
I think they took that back to the bank. I got a piece of paper.
Yeah, I bet. But that was a funny moment. I remember all those tough-looking motorcycle guys with the backpacks full of cash.
Yeah, Rock was in that group, I think.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. And it was, I was rolling around the table on it. I remember a picture of my feet up in the air.
Cool, man. And then I guess I'm just kind of sharing some stories that I remember of you. But then 2008 Japan Open, they had this thing where, there was these like cottage condo things, and I was traveling kind of with like Avery and Feldberg, and they were kind of taking me over to Japan. And I remember them telling me, like, there's supposed to be 4 people per cottage. It's like these shared bedrooms, but like there was some problem with it, so you didn't get in the one with us. So it's just you and Climo. You guys got your own cottage, and you each have your own room, and you're not sharing with anybody. And I remember being like, really? What? And I just remember like sitting in there, like watching Japanese TV, neither one of us understanding a word, and just trying to pick your brain on stuff. And just kind of an amazing time for me as a young player to be like posted up with King Climo, just watching the news in Japan.
Yeah, weren't those good times over there? The Toa Pure cottages, I remember that.
Yeah,
those things were pretty cool. And then they had the warm mineral soak over there in the other building.
Yeah,
that place was awesome, and the course we got to play on was just unbelievable. Like,
yeah. And I remember, I hit a putt. I think we were all playing together, and I hit a putt on the last hole. A couple, 25 footer, and I actually ended up getting you and Nate Doss by a stroke. And I just remember I didn't win or anything. I got 5th, but it just was like, no way, I can't believe it. Just everybody who kind of comes up through the game, and then you get a chance to go toe to toe and maybe even come out on top against these legends. And that, that was really big for my confidence, and just a memory that I'll always cherish, staying and hanging out with you every day, and then playing and getting to play in your group, and then even coming out on top for once, was just a really special thing for me. So thanks for letting me get that putt. Thanks or whatever putt you might have missed to let me have a chance. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. I'll just blame it on the 150 disc.
Yeah, it was tricky, dude. We were playing with the 150 gram. It was pretty tricky. So yeah, man, back to that's kind of my memory lane. We'll get back to your stuff. So I was wondering, what strengths do you feel like set you apart competitively through all those dominant years? And if there was one, like, what do you feel what was your weakness through your game?
Let me start off with the weakness, which is probably a long sidearm. I mean, the discs just weren't capable back then, really.
Sure.
There wasn't many people doing it at all, throwing long sidearms. I mean, obviously people were throwing some shorter sidearm shots, but the disc just didn't take the torque. Everything was flippy. So if you put a high torque and sidearm shot on it, you would basically turn into a roller with those discs back then, with most any mold you threw, until some, more stable stuff came out, like a Viper. Then you could maybe hammer on that and it wouldn't roll over. But that would probably be my biggest weakness, is long sidearms. But I do have a sidearm. I can throw sidearm. I've got great little touch short sidearms, sidearm rollers, sidearm trouble shots. I'm pretty good with, up to about 200, 250 feet or so with the sidearm. But you get me past 300 and I don't have a chance.
Sure. And then how about your greatest strengths, kind of, that you feel like kind of set you apart?
Definitely putting. It was one of my big strengths, because I just didn't like to miss putts if I thought I was the putt I could make. And I putted conservatively. It wasn't like I ran every putt, and if I missed, I was 30 feet by. I played golf, so I knew the value of being closer when you missed. So I developed a putt where if I missed, I wasn't going to have a comeback putt. I was tapping in every time. So I was able to give it a good, solid run every time and not be that far past. I think that was one of my pluses, where a lot of people I saw would three putt a lot more often than me, just going for them, in wrong situations and going 25 feet past, a wind picks up, boom, all of a sudden they're three putt. That was definitely one of my biggest strengths. And the other one was just accuracy, just being accurate, not being wild. I threw low discs, very straight. I didn't take a lot of curve. If I didn't have to take a lot of curve, I wouldn't take a lot of curve. I would just throw low, straight shots. And, we throw a low, straight shot. It's not much deviation can happen from that. And I built my game around that, less deviation.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think the only thing I would add, in terms of a strength is just like a competitiveness that I think is very rare, that you were just kind of a guy, in my experience, that it doesn't matter if it's disc golf or cards or whatever you're doing,
ping pong or whatever.
Yeah, you got a will to win that not a lot of people can match, and I feel like that is maybe not a physical strength, but certainly something I think of when I think, okay, how did Ken Climo do it? That's a big part of where my mind goes.
Yeah, I think that's a good question, is how did I do it? Like, if I look back on all the different times that I won by 1 or 2 strokes, it's amazing that I came out on top that many times, more than not. It's just amazing. And some of those were by 1, 2 strokes, tied, playoff. It's over a bunch of 72 holes. That's not very much difference between me and the other players. I mean, people think that I didn't have anybody to play against. People, some of the newbies, there was no one to play against. He just did. There was some serious talent back in the day. I mean, really, really good players, solid players. Yeah. And if you don't think there was, then you are on the wrong ship, my friend, because there was great players back in the day. And anytime I came ahead by 1 or 2 strokes, I just looked up to the skies and was like, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Why me? But thank you. And like you said, I did have a really competitive, like chomping at the bit to pull out the wins and do things like that. And I think sometimes the conservative play, would get me there too. Yeah. People would, because they knew they had to come after me and they had to, bring all their guns. And sometimes I could just play conservatively, knowing they were going to make a mistake here or there on certain holes, like Ricky did this last weekend, hole 5 and hole 18. He said he was going to play him for par, and he played him for par, and it didn't hurt him in the end, right?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing I think I did better than everybody else back in the days. They might have went for everything or not went for things when they should have. Just combination of that type of thing. But I always had that mental fortitude to want to score the best I could against the course. I wasn't really playing the competitors. I wanted to beat the course. Yeah. And that's basically how I played the game. If I beat the course to the best of my ability, I should win. That was what I thought.
Yeah, and I think you were right. I think the history bears that out. I think you were right in that way. But you actually answered one of my next questions right there, because I was curious. I was going to ask how closely you follow today's game, and it sounds like very closely, because you know about Ricky's strategy decisions from just the other day. So,
well, yeah, I was listening to one of the better, commentators on the.
Hey, man! All right.
When he said something like that, I listened.
Yeah, and we had Nate Doss. We had Nate Doss on this show actually too. So.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Yeah, so I guess I know you've been battling an injury, and I was just wondering, what can we expect to see from you? Is there a light at the end of the tunnel for you think? Are we going to see you in a tournament sometime soon? We hope we will, but I know it's been a long road.
At this point, my body is not liking playing more than 1 day in a row. I can go out and play a round. It's not an issue. 1 round, 1 day, it's fine. I could play a 1 round, 1 day tournament, but that's not the kind of thing I'm really into these days.
Yeah.
So for now, it's not coming back anytime soon, unless something with my body changes, and I'm going to need some help on that one to get that accomplished.
Yeah, man. Well, I hope we can get it done. I mean, the game is missing you for sure, and I hope you can get right so that you can come back and win you a couple more world titles, because I'm sure you'd be picking right up where you left off in the MP50 if you came back and were able to be healthy through the week. So I hope that happens for you and for all the fans as well.
Thanks.
Yeah, man. I just got a couple more questions before hopefully we can get to some fan questions from our listeners. This one's kind of broad. This one, I was just with Nate Doss, and we were talking about what should I ask the champ? What should I ask the champ? And I don't know what you're going to say this, but we, just thought you've kind of left your mark and changed our game in a lot of ways. And I was wondering if there's kind of one thing that you look back on in your career and you kind of feel the most proud of as just something that Kenny did.
I would say you touched on it already, bringing the game more into the golf realm, the par fours, the par fives, the, decision making, the strategy, the cerebral part of the game where it's not just throw and putt. The more OBs. I would like to see, more decisions on left and right. Like maybe you have a red hazard left and a white hazard right. White being OB re-tee, red being take it up there. More like ball golf where there's a better side to miss to if you're gonna miss, things like that. And I think helping with the USDGC and pointing them in that direction, and I think that's a good legacy to have left in my non-playing legacy.
Yeah,
that this sport needed that. It would. I don't think it's going to go anywhere if you just have 200 and 300 foot holes all day long every shot. It's not what it's all about. Golf is about putting yourself in positions to to make eagles and things like that. And Chuck Kennedy's kind of on the other side. He wanted to make things par twos. I was like, so you have to make a hole in one to get a birdie? That just doesn't make sense to me. Let's go the other way with this and make it like golf. There is no par two in golf because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and just the idea of risk reward. I mean, I think that's huge.
Right.
I think you don't have much of that if you can just reach every hole.
It seems like today's game, they're even, they're taking it a step farther and they're closing the OB lines in on, every year, like, oh, this hole was tougher this year than it is last year. They close the lines in on us a little bit. Hardly ever does it get easier when you go somewhere these days, right? I mean, the game is becoming tougher in general just because they're squeezing in the areas you have to land. The OB's bigger, the fairways are smaller.
And the holes are longer, all at the same time.
The holes are longer, correct.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, man. So again, I just am. Before we get to the fan questions, I'm just really thankful that you came on the show, and I just wanted to tell you, I feel really lucky that my career arc kind of crossed over with the end of your kind of dominant era in the Open division, and I just want this, but I want to tell you, you inspired so many players, me and a lot of other guys, and I just want to personally thank you for setting such a high bar and kind of for clearing a path for the current generation of career disc golfers, because there's a lot of us that are out here doing it now, and I don't know that we would have had that chance without a lot of the work that you did, kind of bringing the game into a more serious place and just kind of doing what you did. So just a sincere thank you from me and a lot of my peers.
Well, thank you for the thoughtfulness of that. It makes me feel special inside.
Awesome,
I hear that from a lot of people. Like, you were the inspiration for me. You were the man when I was coming up and stuff like that. And I don't want to get a big head about it, but it really does. It softens my heart. It makes me feel awesome that I could be the pioneer out there and be the first guy that a company sees value in giving monetary value to the player and whatnot, and seeing how much that player can help the company out. And I was obviously the pioneer of that. Because I don't think anybody else had any money deals going with disc golf before I did.
Yeah.
Or getting product and things like that. So if I've opened the door for many others in the future, that's awesome. I'm glad for it.
Yeah, man.
It needed to be done, right?
Yeah. And I'm glad you were the guy to do it. So if you have time, man, I'm sure we have an unbelievable number of fan questions. Jarett will tell us soon, but we'll just kind of give you some of the best ones if you got a couple more minutes to answer those.
Sure.
Sweet.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this in quite a few episodes, but I literally was just overwhelmed with the amount of fan questions we got when we posted that we were going to be having Ken on. So I did pick a few out, but Nate, we do have a responsibility to our audience, and there's no way we can let the champ go without asking for one RV story, right?
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, so we do a thing on this show, Kenny. I don't know how much time you spent traveling in an RV, but I'm sure there was some. And we kind of have a little joke going where we kind of ask people for their whatever that worst night was on the road with the RV, or whatever that stupidest mistake was that ever got made while you were trying to travel for disc golf.
All right, I'll give you a worst and a best.
Sweet.
All right. The worst was there Do I have to name names, or do I just
Yeah,
go with the story?
that's up to you, man. That's up to you.
It's
You're
not that
welcome
big
to,
a deal.
though.
Okay. Well, Dave Feldberg had welcomed me to stay in the RV with him at the 2015 Glass Blown Open, right before the year before the Worlds was there in Emporia.
Yeah.
And so I'm expecting to bring my blow-up mattress and blow it up and sleep, in the middle section of the RV because they didn't have an extra bed because there was discs up there or whatever. So I get there and, we're getting ready to bunker down for the night, and there was all these discs all over the place. He's like, "Oh, I forgot. I picked up all these discs and there's no room for your bed. I guess you're going to have to sleep in the guy's chicken coop out here."
What?
Yeah, we were at this farm. Guy named Justin Clumpy. He lives outside of Emporia. And we were at this farm, and that's where Phil was going to park. He was going to plug in. Everything was good for him, but there was no space for me or my bed in the RV, little single, blow-up bed. So,
my goodness,
I was fine with it. I was like, okay, but I had slept probably 4 or 5 nights in basically a barn on a blow-up mattress by myself. Chickens, and
oh my gosh.
It wasn't horrible, but it just wasn't what I was expecting.
That's the headline right there. The champ crashes in Clumpy's chicken coop.
There you go.
And this is proof positive. This dude remembers names. He's like, yeah, I was in the chicken coop over at Justin Clumpy's farm. It was 7 years ago. It's what this guy does this. All right, now how about that? So that was the best, and you still got a worst coming?
That was the best. That actually was pretty fun. All in all, it was pretty fun. Just didn't expect to be sleeping in a chicken coop.
Oh, my goodness.
The best was didn't really stay in the RV, but we traveled in the RV from Santa Cruz to Portland. Actually, I think we only were going to Eugene. That's when Dave and Avery lived in Eugene. And it was like 5 or 6 of us in the RV. Avery was one, Dave, Brad Hammock, myself, Derek from the Chains video, and Bad Beat Brad, also from the Chains video crew. That was our travel mates, and basically we had a rolling cash game on the table. If you were driving, you were out of the game. If you weren't driving, you were in the game. And it was a 10-11 hour drive, whatever it is. And I think we ended up stopping at Whistler's Bend on the way up that morning. That's when the cash game ended. And we traveled through the night, got to Whistler's Bend at 7:30 and played around at 7:30 a.m. all of us after traveling all that distance and playing cards in the RV.
Nice. I bet you took them on the table and on the course. That's my guess.
I didn't feel that great on the course. I don't remember what happened out there. It was just a practice round. We weren't scoring or anything, but I did take them on the table. I was up like Chuck.
Beautiful.
And Whistler's Bend, what an amazing piece of property that is.
I love it. I think it's my favorite course in the world, if I'm honest.
It's right up there with mine. I never got to play a tournament on it, but just the ambiance out there is just really cool.
Yeah.
Well, Ken, we got a ton of fan questions, and one of the things that we do here at Running It with Nate Sexton is we allow fans to send in audio submissions. They can send those to runningitpodcast@gmail.com, and I want to go ahead and play one that we got, which was pretty neat. So we'll take an audio question first.
Okay.
Hey, Ken. I'm a 14-year-old boy out of North California. I've been struggling with the mental game for a long time now. I've been competing a lot in my local scene, and I was wondering if you had any advice on mental game. Thank you so much. Bye.
Okay. Well, my advice would be is not put as much pressure on yourself if you're doing that. Self-induced pressure is the worst thing you can do to yourself for competitive disc golf. And also, play within yourself. Don't try and throw shots that you might not be capable of. Throw shots that you know you're capable of and execute, follow through, finish. I think that's the biggest thing is finish your throws, follow through on your shots, have a plan, go with your game plan, stick with that kind of mentality on the whole deal. And I think you'll do a lot better.
Love it.
Yeah, that's great advice. And shout out. I didn't get that young man's name, but 14 years old, a fan of Running It, and obviously a fan to send that question in for Ken. So thanks for that question, bud. All right, Ken, we're just going to address the elephant in the room here because The one question that kept coming in over and over and over and over again is, how do you think you would fare in today's game? So if you were in your prime and you were playing in the field that's playing now with the discs that they're playing on the courses that they're playing, how do you think you would fare?
I think I'd be right in there with those 1050 boys, to tell you the truth.
Damn right you would be.
I agree.
I don't think I'd be above them or below them. I think I'd be right in there with them. And, because I was a lot stronger back in the day when I was doing construction work, and I was basically in my prime, and I didn't really need a sidearm shot. I could throw a long turnover or a roller or anything like that I needed to throw. And I don't think the sidearm would have hurt me that bad, really. I know they're designing a lot more courses to get the skip sidearm shot or the lefty shot, the low ceiling off to the right kind of things. I think there's a lot more of that design going on these days. So I might have struggled a little bit just because of the design these days, but ability, I think I'd be right there with them. You remember, I was 1045 rated, and I had speed 8 discs.
Yeah, he was the original 1050 boy, even though he didn't go to 1050, but 1045
with speed 8 discs
at the beginning of the ratings. Yeah, for sure. And I think, I totally agree. I mean, you look at a James Conrad, a Garrett Gerthy, a Kel LaVisca, Drew Gibson. Those guys aren't throwing forehands really, and they're still ripping it. So it's certainly not a requirement, no question.
Right. It's a little bit of an added bonus when you get to those few holes in a tournament where it's, more lefty biased or sidearm biased.
Yeah.
Well, I think the thing is I mean, and I checked it out a lot on the PDGA for the last few days getting ready for this, is that, in other sports, it's always tough to say how one great would stack up against another because you're just never going to see it. But you look at your scores when you were winning these titles. I mean, you're scoring in the 50s, in the low 60s, which is what the guys that are shooting now are shooting. So the scores are very comparable. And like you said, you were doing it with some less weapons in the bag. So I don't think there's any question that you would be right in the top of the field right now as well.
I don't think I'd be out throwing these guys though. The distance some of these guys are throwing these is unbelievable. Like Eagle just pops it off 600 foot around some trees, like no problem. Oh, that's no problem. Hey, I got that.
Yeah,
like tell me about it,
Kenny.
Shots I wouldn't even think about ever trying. Like he just pulls it off like it's nothing. Like there's definitely an advantage there. There's definitely an advantage there.
Yeah, and I'm supposed to try to beat these guys. It's crazy. Right. They throw it. It'll blow your mind.
His sidearm goes farther than my backhand.
Yeah. I'm in that club too. It's crazy.
One of my favorite lines in the history of running it was Paul Ulibarri, who said, "Man, I'm telling you, they're just making them younger and stronger, and I don't know where they're coming from." And that's kind of how it looks out there.
I've got a theory about that real quick. All the people who can throw 600 feet or more basically had a disc in their hand when they were, 5, 6, 7 years old or younger.
Yeah.
And you check it out. All those guys that can throw that far had a disc in their hand when they were that young. They grew up throwing the disc and their body's built into it. I didn't throw a golf disc until I was 19.
Sure.
So I didn't grow up throwing golf disc type shots, and these kids did, and I think that's why they can throw so much farther than your average person that just picks it up as an adult.
Yeah.
You know what though? Are they really enjoying the course as much as I am? Like I'm throwing 600, but it's in 3 tosses, and I get to see the left side of the course, and the right side of the course.
Some army golf, huh?
yeah. Like when Nate was talking about Milo, I lived in Portland. I played Milo a bunch of times, and when he's talking about the spot off, short into the woods, and I'm like, yeah, I know that spot, man. So now I know that I've thrown a shot from the same spot as you. It makes me feel a little bit better here. A fun question that came in, and this was from Bro's chat on Instagram. Ken, is there one throw in your career that you wish you could rethrow?
That's a pretty interesting question.
It's a lot of throws. There's a lot of throws to think about.
Yeah, I mean, that's a ton of, hundreds of thousands of throws, actually. I think it would have to be the 2001 USDGC Clown's Mouth hole. I think I took a 7 there, and Barry beat me by 1 stroke that year. And that was the 15th hole of the final round, so 4 holes left to go in the round. And I had enough of a lead where I could have laid up and taken a par on the hole and still won the tournament, and chose not to. So probably that one.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Mike from Instagram says, Ken, what are your thoughts on today's plastics and the multitude of discs to choose from compared to the old school discs that you started with?
Well, yeah, nowadays the variations are so little between one disc and another. And back when I started, the variations were much larger between one disc style and another disc style. So I think that's the biggest thing, is you have so many variations to work through right now. You can almost get lost in all the different discs there are and what they do. Back in the day, it was cut and dried. It's like, this one's kind of stable, but this one's pretty understable. There wasn't like 5 different plastics of the same mold that had slightly varying stabilities. We didn't have that to deal with. So I think it was a little easier to pick a disc back in the days, to pick one you like, just because there wasn't much variation. And nowadays there's tons of variation between plastic and weight of disc and, difference of mold. So it is the Savant and the Mystere and the T-Bird and the Eagle. How different are those 4 discs, really?
Sure.
But there's not much difference.
I bang them all into trees the exact same. You should see it.
Right. It's 4 different discs and 4 or 5 different plastics. So you have 20 varying discs of the same, strength.
Sure.
Or so I say, the same moldish kind of thing. Not the same mold, but the same shape.
Class.
The same class. The same shape, the same class, the same general flight characteristics. That to me is, you just pick what you like and get a few of them. If you like one disc and, you like that run, get the same color, the same weight, the same run, and get as many of them as you can. Because if that's the one you like, that's the one you got to go with.
Well, that'll follow right up into another question from AJ. And AJ asked, what is your all-time favorite disc? You had to pick just one.
The KC Rock.
Yeah, that's
undoubtedly.
That's what I thought you'd say. That makes sense.
It's not a flashy, far-flying disc, but it's a very accurate birdie-getting disc or upshot retaining disc. I mean, that disc, it's a super disc. You can go out and play all around with it. You can putt with it. You can drive with it. You can roll with it. You can sidearm with it somewhat. But it's a very versatile disc, and I think it's a great disc for, a beginning player to get a hold of as well. It's not just a professional disc. It's a good learning disc, too. It's very neutral.
I love them. I still throw them. Get one. Get a KC Rock. You got to try it.
Yeah, perfect. Let's see here. Robert asked, is there any player that's playing now that Ken would love to play against when he was in his prime?
I never really got to play with KJ USA. Never got to throw down with him. Or James Conrad. He kind of came in just after I was injured and done competing for a bit. I think those 2 guys would probably be my picks.
Nice.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I would love to see that round for sure. All right, let's see here. We won't keep you much longer. Like I said, I had so many questions that came in. I've got such a long list here. We had a fun question here. Somebody asked, kind of what your level of passion for disc golf is today. It sounds like you're watching it a lot. I know you said you can't play it a lot. How are you on the sport today?
I've kind of taken a step back from, the competing side of the things, obviously, but I still go out to the local tournaments, the pro weekends and things, and see what's going on there. I'm heavily active in we just finished a new gold course layover at Cliff Stevens not that long ago. Finally got the tee pads and the baskets, everything in. It's a par 62 overlay, kind of like Stan McDaniel does in Charlotte, where he takes a course and overlays a longer, tougher course on it. I've done that with my home course, and that's kind of where I'd like to see myself. I'd like to, get into more of designing championship style courses and long, tough, make you think kind of courses. That's where I want to kind of go with my name in the future. Just been kind of nice to take a couple years off. I grinded for 30 years. I've been spending time with the family, and it's been nice just to be here at home for a few years without having to go anywhere and live out of a suitcase.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I would imagine the grind gets it probably gets old quick.
And man, what a nice ring that has to it to say, like, yeah, this professional major on Ken Climo designed. I mean, That sounds about right.
All right. Yeah. So I've got one over in Tampa that I designed about 7 years ago. Opened up the day after my birthday in 2014. It's kind of not quite a gold course. It's silver plus. It's not quite
Nice.
on the top level gold course, but it's a nice par 66. Maybe more of a par 62 for the top players, but a par 66 for the everyday guy. And it's really nice. It's right by the airport. Planes fly over you and stuff. And then the other one, like I said, is on my home course. And I'd like to get into doing that. Maybe fresh courses or overlays of people that have more land than their course has used, and they want to get a little tougher
Nice.
play out of it.
Well, we got so many questions here, and I appreciate you answering a few of them. The one question that just kept coming in, and I feel like I wouldn't be doing justice if I didn't ask it. And you kind of talked about how you thought you would fare. Everybody would love to know what you think would happen in a Ken Climo Prime, Paul McBeth Prime heads-up match.
It could go either way. I don't know.
I think it would depend on the course we were playing. If it was a bunch of long, open bomber shots, he'd probably get me. If it was more through the woods and technical, I'd probably get him.
Yes,
Nice.
I like that answer, and I'll tell you what, it's we got 100 of them, and I thought, I'm sure you're tired of hearing that comparison, but I had to ask, for my own self-being, I guess.
Well, he did come and stay here and live in Clearwater for a little while, and he dated Brittany Blair, and we got together, and just about right before he was going to get into his prime, it was late 2011 on my home course, and I putted from the wrong disc from about a 4-foot putt, a tap-in par. There was 2 discs laying right next to each other. They're upside down. I didn't even check it. I stepped up. I thought it was mine, putted in, 2-stroke penalty. He beat me by a stroke on my home course. Basically, I was, 43 years old, and he was going to win the Worlds the next year, right after that tournament. So I feel like I beat him,
You did.
by stroke-wise. I just had a 2-stroke penalty, and he ended up clipping me by 1 because of the penalty. But I beat him in throws.
There you go. There you go.
When I was 43, I was hanging with Macbeth, who was however old he was in 2011. So if that gives you any indication what I would have done when I was 25.
Yeah, he would have been about 20 at the time, I think.
Right.
Gosh,
Yeah.
I just love that. Well, it's been absolutely amazing being able to have you come on and just share some of these stories. In my mind as a fan, there's no doubt that you are the GOAT. And I carry your discs in my bag, and it's just an honor to be able to have you come on and share some of these stories for our listeners. And I really appreciate it. And like I said, I've been doing podcasts for about 5 years. Rarely do I get starstruck, and this one was one that was just a lot of fun to hear you guys chat and talk some disc golf.
Cool. It was my first podcast, actually.
Hey, all
Believe
right,
it or not.
we're honored, man. We are honored, and I just can't say enough. Hope you get to feeling right, and hope we can see you out there again, because I'd love to see you throw.
I'm kind of getting the itch again, Nate. It's been tough. I've enjoyed this time off, but I'm getting the itch, and I kind of want to come back out there.
Let's
I just
go.
got to get my body right.
Let's
We
go.
want to see you. We want to see you back out there. So, I think it would be amazing.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you have a good night. Hope you have a good week, and yeah, man, we really, really appreciate it. I think the fans are going to really have a richer knowledge of the history of the game for having heard from you.
Nate, I'd like to wish you good luck when you get back out on tour. I know you want to get back out there and go heads up with these boys and show them what's up.
Yeah, man, I'm going to Emporia in a couple days. It's going to be fun.
Awesome. Good luck. Safe travels.
Thanks, dude.
Well, Nate, when we got this podcast going, I think we certainly decided that Ken Climo was like on the top of the list of guests that we wanted to have on. I think we did it the right way. We had a bunch of amazing guests. We got ourselves really rocking and rolling. We built up a ton of momentum. We helped Ricky take the win in Jonesboro, and then it was time to have the champ on, and he did not disappoint.
Yeah, I mean, he was at the top of our list. He's kind of at the top of all the lists. If you want to make a list about disc golf, just block out space 1, and you could put him. Because how are you gonna tell the story of this sport? There's so many important figures, but like I'm biased towards players. I'm a player myself, so it's really pretty hard to think of anybody. Dave Dunapace is maybe in that conversation. We got him already. Like, who would you rather hear from than the champ? I mean, the guy's nickname is basically just winner. I mean, do you realize how much you have to win to get people to just, before you even play, they just, oh, hey, champ. Yeah, we haven't played yet, but that's the guy, So I'm just so happy that he agreed to do it. Like, this is the first podcast he'd ever been on. I just feel really lucky to have had him come on our show and get to talk to him, and just a guy that obviously I've looked up to for a long time and haven't had really a chance to speak to in a while because, as you heard, he hasn't really been out there for a couple of years.
Yeah, it was just, it was amazing, and I know that the listeners are really going to enjoy this. I'm super excited about it. Now, Nate, I think it would only make sense if we went ahead and did another disc review. We've been getting emails and messages, and I think we need to bring it back by popular demand. I know it's helped me out a lot as I'm developing my bag, and I think our listeners have really been enjoying hearing you kind of break down these discs and what they do and how to use them.
Yeah, man, it's pretty obvious which one we have to do, don't you think?
Which one are we going with, man?
For today's disc review, what else could I choose but the man's favorite disc, the Climo KC Pro Rock. It's a disc I've used for really almost my whole career. I remember having a 10-time KC Pro Rock. I used 11-time rocks for a long time. Now, obviously, since 2006 and Kenny's 12th world title, they're all 12-time rocks. But they have been a huge part of the mid-range game for me. They're just kind of like straight to overstable finish. And the beautiful thing about it is that KC plastic, maybe that's not ideal for your drivers, but that durability level and that kind of more chalky feel, I think is just so perfect for a mid-range. It hits trees, it'll take a little beating and it'll start to beat out, but that's almost such a good thing because you can go through that progression where you learn that disc and you grow with that disc and you know exactly how flippy it's become over time. That I almost prefer an old one to a new one. I mean, I'd like to have both ideally, but you can end up carrying a big cycle of them through your bag of different ages, and that's what Kenny did for his whole career, really. I think he would be having quite a few in his bag, probably 4 or 5 in his competition bag, and you can use them in so many situations. So I would really encourage you to give the KC Pro Rock a try. The guy didn't win 12 world championships by accident, and that disc was the one he said was his favorite that got it done for him. So give it a shot. I'm sure it'll work for you as well.
Now, you had mentioned something. You'd mentioned that you were a player. Are you going to get back to doing some of that soon?
These Facebook guys need to quit it with this. Oh, you still play? Yeah, I've tried it. Give me a chance here. But yeah, no, I'm heading out to Emporia, and we're gonna see how it goes, man. I'm gonna get some good practice in this week because my wife is on the night shift as of tomorrow, so that means she's kind of like home and awake between like 2 and 6 p.m., which is like that's those disc golf hours. So I'm gonna get out there and do some field work this week. Get my bag right for Emporia, and we're playing the new Jones Gold layout some of the rounds, so I'm excited to see that. See what they always do it big in Emporia, and it's fun. And get back there working with Jomez, and yeah, man, I'm excited. And then it's pretty fast and furious after that. It's like a West Coast swing. I'm playing those World Championships. I can't wait to get out to Kale's place. You heard me talk about that when we had him on the show. But yeah, the season's kind of getting going for me, and really excited. I just hope I can get out there and get into good form and play my game. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah. Listen, man, I want you to keep your eyes peeled. That Hot Dog Bandit's out there, and I don't want any of those beautiful Sexton discs to be getting waiter stamped, man.
I know. I'm a little bit worried about that, but I did check. I checked my bag after Vegas, so I'm safe so far. But I'm sure I'm a prime target.
Yeah, there's got to be some sort of sting operation that can be set up. Like one of the.
Me and Rick. We can't talk about it, but me and Rick are on it.
All right, good.
We've got a whole thing going. So yeah, whoever that bandit is should be pretty worried.
Are you listening, Eric Oakley? Are you listening or not? Yeah, man, I look forward to getting you out there. I'm looking forward to a practice round with you and Big Germ and Yuli. I really hope that happens. I think you said it is going to happen.
I got 2 pieces of good news for the fans. The practice round will happen, and the day after that, champs versus chumps, baby.
Oh man, are you? You know, I've been listening to Rockin' the Brock just because I miss Champs vs. Chumps so much. It's made it into like my normal playlist now.
We're coming back.
Oh gosh, I can't wait for that. So this is really exciting news. Yeah, I told you the last practice round, Big Germ just spitting wisdom, man. He's, man, that shot would have been really good if it was just better. Yeah, I felt that. I know, I understand that feeling. So awesome. Looking forward to getting you back out there and seeing you play. And like you said, you've got a big run coming of tournaments. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Guys, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Running It with Nate Sexton. He is at Frisbee Nate. I am at Jarett or 222. Hey, you know what, Nate? I got a message from our friends over across the pond at the Amside boys, and they were like, "Hey, when you're talking about those other podcasts laying up, you're not talking about us, are you?" And I went, No, we're not. So it's nothing personal. It's not to anyone out there. But unfortunately, there are some people that are just kind of laying it up, Nate, and I don't think that's going to happen here, right?
No, I think it's mostly runs for us, though. I mean, the champ, he did say you got to have that cerebral game. You got to think about what you're doing. I was about to run everything, but now I'm kind of thinking maybe I got to play that game plan a little bit. Either way, we're going to be back with more shows.
That's right. I'm running it no matter what. Guys, check out our sponsors, FisherDiscGolf.com, Double G Craft Jerky. Pick yourself up a disc and a bag of jerky. Set yourself up for your weekend rounds and help support the show a little bit. We'll see you guys next week.